For a traditional merchant to get payment processing, I need 3-month statements and a driver's license and a voided check.
Welcome to What Canna Radio, where we bring a dose of reality to your conversations about hemp. We are proud to say that today's episode is brought to you by Joint Venture Pay and CBD Peer. Stick around to the end of the show to learn how you can increase the wellness of yourself and your business. My name is Aiden Washness. I'm happy to be your host today, and now enjoy the show. So is the different solutions essentially you're the payment processor, and that you guys are the ones that kind of collect the swipe, and then you work on the back end, and it would be the underwriter that you have 4 different solutions for, right? Is that
right? So basically, so a merchant processor like me, will gather all of the fun information and basically know the blood type of the merchant by the time we're done. You laugh, but it's true. And we will reach out to our various solutions. So again, especially in the hemp industries, because rules and regs are so different. If you have flower, I will put you on solution A, for example. If you have topicals only, I can put you on solution D. If you have vapes, pre-rolls, flower, all edibles, I can put you on this solution. So literally I'm working with 4 different banks and 4 different solutions. And then we talk to the client. One of the first things we tell clients is, please don't just send us an email. Don't leave us a voicemail and expect us to, send you a quote. We don't play that way. We want to make sure that the solution actually works for you and isn't going to shut you down in a week. So we ask, what are you selling exactly? How are you selling it? How much volume are you selling it? Where's your website built on? All those sorts of fun questions, because we really want to know how the client operates, and then we recommend the solution that we have. So we get the information, we put it into the underwriting bank. Underwriting then looks through all of the paperwork, and there is a ton of paperwork when it comes to we like to call it elevated or high risk. So currently you need like articles of organization, your LLC paperwork or your incorporation paperwork, your EIN, the colored copies of driver's licenses for everyone over 5%. I mean, it's a long list and depends on which solution. So we actually, I love copying and pasting, by the way. It is my favorite thing in the world, so I do not forget something. So we literally copy and paste per solution what the documents are. And we also, especially if it's an e-commerce site, we give them, hey, these are the things you need to have on your internet site for the underwriters to see. If it's not on there, they won't approve you. And then we also give them guidance as to, this is terminology you want to use versus, hey, this cures cancer, because they don't like that. The underwriters don't like that. Neither does the FDA, by the way. So you know this, we've talked about this. So I'm sure you talked about it on other things. So they're really careful about that. So we try to guide our clients as much as we possibly can. We're pretty good at it. We've done a few of these by now. Just a few. So we send all that out, and then we actually work with the client in gathering all the information. They sign an application. We wait usually 7 to 10 business days, and we get their approval back and everything like that, and then we set them up. So it could be e-commerce, it could be a portable swiper for delivery or curbside or in the store, and the underwriting bank is really the one that starts moving the money. So when you work with a company like ours, we work with a lot of different underwriting companies. That help?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Because you really don't want to get into the technical 20-step process. It's not fun.
Well, I personally like all the details, because the better I understand, then the more I can, when I'm conversing with somebody, the more I understand, the more I know whether or not they're trying to screw me over or not. And I mean, especially in this kind of space, I mean, I don't think I would deal with any other payment processor other than you, but in the event I had to, I could talk with somebody else and have a better understanding. And so you touched on it sort of in the fact of there were like lots of banks that were trying to get into the cannabis space early on that were like cannabis only, and they were trying to just focus hardcore on that. So like, what is the thing, or what is the boundary box kind of put around, say, like just Joe Blow trying to be their own payment processor? And if they could do it, why would they not want to do it?
Well, first of all, you need to be a bank. You have to have a bank. And the bank basically fronts the money until everything gets paid into their system. That's the easiest way of putting it. So you swipe a card. Okay, let's talk about this. So you swipe a card, and there's an instant charge even before I start charging you anything. Okay, so there's a cost to the card just being run through the system, and it can be a no frills card, which is a lower rate, or it could be a high frills card, like it could serve you breakfast in bed or give you AirPoint points or cash back. That's a higher rate. Those rates are set by the card issuer. So whoever issued that card sets that rate. The average right now is about 1.81. And you'll hear that referred to as interchange, wholesale cost plus. So that's one way merchant processors charge. But so they swipe the card, and then the charges that I set up with the underwriting solution get put into play. So the underwriting bank, okay, hasn't even gotten that information yet. There's a gateway, which is like the lock, that takes the information and transfers it to the bank, okay? And at that point, the bank, and this takes seconds most of the time, hopefully, if you don't live in the woods like I do. And it takes seconds, it gets to the bank sends out, yes, an approval or a disapproval, and then they take that money and they start moving it through to the merchant. And literally I could go back and forth with about 20 different steps in there, but it's pretty much that simple, and it happens in a matter of seconds. So you have it sounds really confusing if you were to look at the full map, and I could show you a slide of the full map and your eyes would cross, because I know mine do when I see it. But that's basically how it works. Now, our company, we do not have a direct solution. We work with different ones. So you do need an underwriting bank. So if you were Joe Schmo off the street, as you said, you would need to find a bank that is underwriting, and that means they basically paid a whole bunch of fees to MasterCard and Visa and gotten their blessing and filled out about 6 feet of paperwork with MasterCard and Visa and American Express and Discover to guarantee all of these transfers of money, okay? So then you would need it. There's a couple different things. You could do straight credit card processing, which is a very expensive thing to do. Or you could become a payment facilitator, which is also a very expensive thing to do. You would still need an underwriting bank, but a payment facilitator would be about a minimum $100,000 expense check, just to get the programming and all that fun stuff. So it's a very expensive thing to do. But when you add the risk of hemp, it just makes it all the more scarier, because you're putting every client that you have from that underwriting bank at potential risk if someone, the donkeys, puts an inappropriate client in there. So it can be done. I actually looked at it at one point and then almost rolled over when I found out how much expensive it was. So, and also to give you an idea, straight credit card processing is what you know traditionally. Payment facilitators have been popping up more and more. That's Square, PayPal. You don't like PayPal in this industry. Don't use PayPal. If I had a dime for every order message, oh my goodness. Don't use PayPal. Please don't use PayPal. Call me and I will explain while half my head is gray. But yeah, so those Venmo, those are payment wallets or payment facilitators. So they just hold the money and then they transfer it, basically.
Gotcha. So basically, it's really freaking expensive, and it's just a major headache to deal with. And so my understanding here is that when you swipe the card, maybe a fee goes to the card issuer, which would probably be Visa, MasterCard, so on. The underwriter then pays the merchant, and then they wait to get reimbursed by your bank account, essentially, or when you pay.
So at the end of the month, the merchant will get a bill, and that's all their fees, and they have to pay the bill, otherwise they don't get their payments, and that's again, mama wants to get paid, so pay your bill. So those fees and everything will get billed to them at the end of the month. A merchant processor such as myself, you don't pay us. Most of us are in our company, we're all independent contractors. So like I said, mama wants to get paid. Okay, not a lot of other companies. There are some other companies with a professional sales staff. I'm a professional too, but that came out wrong. Anyhow, with a salaried sales staff, let's put it that way, who have quotas, and they tend to be a little bit more cutthroat because they tend to be the big box processors. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And so, is it really just that you guys are willing to take on the risk that allows you to work with high risk companies, or is it like is there some special sauce that you guys have that makes it easier, if you're allowed to share?
You know what, a payment processor, as long as they are signed the contract with an underwriting bank or a solution that is willing to provide the solution to the hemp industry, anyone can be a high risk merchant processor, as long as they, fill out all the paperwork and all that fun stuff. The problem is that there's really no regulation in my industry. So you have people, and this is a prime example, we'll go back to Elevon, they're like, oh, there's so much money coming in the hemp industry and I can jump on this and I just have to, sign an agreement to be an ISO and send them a couple month statements and that's it. And some of them got on and were like, this is awesome, I can make money, because they saw big dollar signs. And then others were like, you know what, I can get in on this and I can put cannabis dispensaries in there. I can make a lot of money, and who cares about systems? So you're laughing a lot at me. I should just probably say this for the record. He's like this on board meetings when I'm out there too. So I actually try to text him during the meetings to make him laugh. So total caveat. So yeah, anyone can do merchant processing that goes through the different steps and signs up what they call ISO agreements. We're an ISO for a bunch of different places. Our company is bonded, that's an extra level of protection. If you ever want to ask your ISO or your merchant processor that you're working with, are you bonded? And basically what that means is, are you bonded with Visa and MasterCard and agree to do, be polite and play nicely with the children in the playground and not get arrested and end up in federal prison wearing orange. So it's an extra level of protection, and it really is, it's about, I don't even know how much it is, but it's expensive. But yeah, our company is bonded. So with them, Visa and MasterCard.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. No, there's yeah, as you said, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and to kind of just be the average person getting into hemp space, it's very frustrating when you especially go with like a company like Square. Like many in this world, I deal with anxiety. It can interfere with my work, my relationships, and my ability to socialize. This becomes a feedback loop where my lack of progress in human interaction can lead to further anxiety. So how does one combat this? Well, I personally use cannabidiol, or CBD. While we can't yet clinically say CBD treats anxiety, for myself and many others I know, CBD can help me feel far better. The only issue is it's so expensive, and for many, it's very challenging to find a high-quality product. Well, thanks to today's sponsor, CBD Peer, we at What Canna Radio can offer our listeners a 15% discount on their world-class, US-sourced, organically grown CBD products, ranging from CBD oil to CBD cream. Use our discount code WCD, that's WCD, at checkout to get your 15% discount. We appreciate your support, and we hope you appreciate yourself. Now, back to the show. I don't know what their laws are now, or their policies are now, but I remember when I first signed up trying to get a payment processor, I initially went with Square, and it was an immediate flagging of my account, even though I had nothing to do with CBD, nothing to do with marijuana. I was fiber focused, maybe a little bit of grain focused, but strictly fiber focused. They just flagged my account, and even though I tried to get rid of the flag and actually talk to somebody, their only answer was, "Oh, well, that's the policy. We can't work with you. I'm so sorry." And so has that changed at all, or is that kind of still?
So Square is a whole world to its themselves. So they do have a CBD program. You have to go through a certain department to be set up properly. If they find out that you didn't go through that separate department, you will get either shut down automatically when they find out, and they will find out, or they will put a 30-day hold on your account, which means they will you can keep processing. They're just going to collect the money and not pay it out to you. And at the end of those 30 days, if you haven't taken the steps to become compliant with their CBD and hemp program, they will either shut you down entirely, which means they do one or two things. They keep the money or they refund the money to the client. So again, mama wouldn't get paid, so that doesn't make me happy. They are extremely good at what they do. When it comes to, like you said, trying to reach out to someone who can help you, it tends to be a little bit worrisome. It sometimes takes a very long time to get a response, if you get a response on your
Yeah,
system.
if you get a response from an actual human versus a bot. Right.
So people work with us, companies like ours, because they know that a lot of times we tell every client of ours, don't ever call the solution before you call us, because we have numbers, and we were joking before we got on this call, if things are ringing and dinging and flashing on my screen. I am on Google Hangouts and Skype and Trello with my different underwriting banks and solutions, and I know how to get a hold of them. They think I'm the crazy New York lady, so they actually respond pretty quickly to me. But we can solve a lot of the problems without you ever having to call India, unfortunately, or get into the, okay, I pushed 3 and they disconnected me and I was like on the 7th, where am I now? So we can help with a lot of that. And a lot of times we'll actually call you in a back room on a 3-way call, that a number you don't have access to that we might. So
Absolutely, that's always handy to have, to be able to get direct to the person that you're trying to get a hold of, versus having to go through customer service that likely doesn't have very much reach within the company, doesn't really know all that much other than the script that they have in front of them.
And it can only get you so far. So
I love scripts, right? And I love people on the Indian continent. I have friends there. I can understand them 90% of the time.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And so we kind of already touched on it a bit, but are there like any unique challenges that comes along with the hemp space that doesn't come along with any other industry, even if they're high risk?
Well, so you're laughing and I haven't even said anything yet, because you know
Because
what's
so
probably
funny.
coming out of my mouth. So, well, you've got all the different state laws for hemp, and then the federal rules and regs, and like New York State, which you and I just, yeah, it's our favorite. You can't have edibles in New York State and a couple other states. So I know. So you have to figure out where it's topical only and where you can sell this and where you can sell that. And then you have to literally, it's just got a lot of moving parts. And the banks are, especially during COVID, unfortunately, they were getting more flexible, and then COVID happened. And even it's funny because even our low risk solution on our pay it forward side, I get a call like, hey, our low risk merchant solution won't take this. Can you take it on your side? And it's crazy things that you would like, why is that hard to get? But hemp is a lot of moving parts. It's the COAs and the labels and all of that information we have to provide to the underwriting solution. And we're pretty good. I mean, literally we have a checklist, and so I'm a Trello girl, this. If you think the Trello cards I've shared with you over the time, Aiden, are like bad, you should see the ones my team uses, because they literally have like 24, things on a checklist that they have to do just to submit an application before we submit it to a solution. So we get to know our clients really, really well. And I know kids' names. I don't know blood types, but I do know where they live, because driver's licenses and all that fun stuff. So we really have to go into detail. And hopefully you're working with a company that makes sure that they have it down to a science. So, because every time there's a hiccup when your application is in with underwriting, unfortunately, we would have to go back to the merchant and say, hey, we need this, or this didn't match. And it literally puts them back at the front of the queue. So that just adds more time on, which sucks for everyone. So we really work our best to get all of those ducks in a row, I's dotted, T's crossed. I was about to say it the other way, but you know what I mean. So
Absolutely. So it's really a matter of just doing a lot of due diligence in terms of not only knowing what the regulations are and how those are constantly changing and how the federal interacts with the state and where banks might be able to fit within that, but then also really doing due diligence on your clients, because you need to know, make sure that they're not trying to be sleazy, right? And make sure that even if they're not trying to be sleazy, but just make sure that they're really paying attention to all these other details that they have to be paying attention to. Like many in the hemp and marijuana spaces, it can be challenging to find a payment processor that will work with you or even know what challenges you face, which makes it difficult to be confident that you can grow your business successfully. Because as everyone who has even a little bit of business savvy knows, you need to be able to take payments from your customers. Because even though we all want to change the world, money is still king. Thanks to our sponsor, Joint Venture Pay, we at What Can Radio can offer our listeners the opportunity to work with a leading payment processing firm who's not only expert in the payments world, but is also very knowledgeable in the hemp and marijuana spaces. Their job is to be your solutionist, someone whose job it is to solve your problems. The cannabis world is constantly changing, and your solutions need to change with it. There is no one else like Joint Venture Pay when it comes to dealing with these adaptations, thanks to their multi-solution approach. So do yourself and your business a favor and choose Joint Venture Pay as your savior. Please contact us at contact@whatcanado.com and tell us you choose Joint Venture Pay. We appreciate your support and hope you appreciate your business. And now back to the show. And so what can somebody in a hemp business do to like better prepare themselves when they're trying to approach a payment processor or just trying to deal with payment processing in general?
Okay, so in the hemp market, I don't know of a hemp business these days that does not have the folder on their desktop. And the folder, I'm actually going to pull this up I have multiple screens, so if I'm looking above you, that's why, because I'm actually going to go through a list of what were the basic requirements for most payment solutions right now. You're going to crack up laughing. So let's look at this one. Okay, so in order for me to submit an application, okay, for credit card processing for hemp, I need, okay, besides all the internet requirements, because there's like 8 bullet points that have to be covered on your website, I need a voided check, okay, or a bank letter on letterhead saying your routing number and checking account number and that you haven't robbed the bank and that you're in good standing. 3 months most recent processing statements. If you don't have that because you're a new business, just talk to us. 3 months bank statements from the business. And here's the cool part. All the addresses really need to match on the business paperwork. Just remember that EIN has to match the articles of incorporation or the LLC paperwork, which we also need. Operating agreement, so we can know who owns how much and where, so we know if they have to go on the application. Yeah, that's fun. Social security numbers. Yeah, that's fun. Colored copies of the driver's licenses, front only. We don't need backs. It's amazing, but we only need the front. DBA information. Let's see what else. EIN letter from the IRS. The COAs. I now know how to read a COA. Okay, never in a million years would I even know what a COA is, much less how to read one and see the THC levels. Hint, it has to be below 0.3, just so, yeah. We need copies of marketing materials. We need proof of domain ownership. We need utility bills, believe it or not, tax permits, all that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So when you work with a company like ours, you're probably going to get a list of stuff that you have to submit. And make sure that you have all of that done. It's usually in a checklist format before you start doing the application. But a lot of the hemp businesses that have been doing this for a while, now that they've come out from hiding, because back 6-7 years ago, no one was doing it unless you hid, we won't discuss the dark days. But usually everyone has a file folder with all that paperwork in there. So you just send it into your payment processor. And literally before I submit anything for anyone on my team, I'm literally double checking that checklist and making sure that we have everything, because I don't want any stalls. Because that's no fun for anybody. And it makes more paperwork and emails for me, and I get enough of them. So, yeah.
Wow, that's quite a bit. And how does that differ from just like an average company that you're working with? Like, what do you need from an average company?
For a traditional merchant to get payment processing, I need 3-month statements and a driver's license and a voided check.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a
That's
tad bit
incredible.
different. Yeah, it's a tad bit different. Because I work both of I run the joint venture pay side, but I also work our pay it forward processing side. They actually joke when I actually do something on the payment processing, the PFP side, JDP, PFP. And I actually got a PFP application last week, and our CFO was like, no way. I'm like, I know, I was so excited. I don't know their blood type, so.
Wow, that is incredible. And are those regulations that are put in place by government, or are those regulations that are like just policies that are put in place by the banks?
So they're really looking at a couple different things. You're looking at the bank requirements. You're looking at state regulations for the THC levels and the FDA rules that we don't know what the hell they're going to come out and decide in the end yet. So some of the banks require pictures of every label and how specific the label. Again, it depends on which solution. So it brings all of that into it, basically. So.
Gotcha. Yes, absolutely. And on a little side note on there, I noticed on the website that American Express was not listed. So is that not an option for hemp companies, or is it just not an option in general?
It depends on the solution. Now, here's the thing. We had one solution where American Express was up, and then 3 months in it pulled out. So American Express is slightly more expensive to process than Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, number one. Number two, they're very elitist, and they make their own rules and regs. And they don't necessarily, they're dipping their toes in the hemp industry. So they don't really like that they're being put into the industry yet. But they're in it in some aspects. So it again, depends entirely on, I'm gonna sneeze, sorry. Depends, excuse me. Shall we redo that? It depends entirely on the solution, whether they have that ability or not. So I have 2 solutions out there right now, believe it or not, through 2 different underwriting banks, but the processor is the same processor, is one processor. They both use the same processor. And on one solution you have Amex and the other you don't. So, and yeah, it's fun. That's why I have Trello boards and lots of checklists.
Thank you very much for joining us here on What Can a Radio, where we're on a mission to bring a dose of reality to your conversations about hemp. You can support this channel by checking out our sponsors in the description below, all while improving the wellness of yourself and your business. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and leave your questions and suggestions for future guests in the comments below. If you need another dose of reality right this moment, check out our video up here or see what YouTube has to offer you over here or down below. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a mind-expanding day.